Welcome back to the show. Now it's time for the very cheery Charles Tarbey from Century 21 with all the latest numbers.
Yes, thank you very much.
Should we be happy? Are the numbers looking good?
Oh, they're looking all right. I was feeling great until I got picked on by this bloke here because, you know, he's
always get the smallest seat in the studio.
I always sit on the edge of the chair, Chris. That's generally because I'm very short. That's no other reason. Now the stats are looking great. Sydney was the star again. The national clearance rate 70.2. Still in the 70s, still no boom. 61.6 this time last year, so they're starting to catch up with each other and the timing from when the market started to move last year. But Sydney was 78.8, Melbourne sat at 67.3. But Adelaide, we always talk about Adelaide. I heard Tom talking about Adelaide before, and it was 63.2%, and they've had that pretty much of a run like that for quite some time.
Actually, what were your thoughts on Tom's story about a lot of the agents taking early offers rather than going all the way to auction?
Well, I've always felt that if you're putting a property to auction, you should let it go to auction, unless there's some extraordinary circumstances that suggest you should sell it to the first buyer you have. And that's often if there's no other buyer around. But in my view, realistically, you should, if you're putting it to auction, let it go to auction.
But still, there's no guarantee, is there? Even with these high auction rates and people get, the neighbours have got over-reserved, there's still no guarantee that you're going to get that same price as well, is there?
There isn't, but you're going to know. You're going to know, and that's the hardest part, is you sell it too early, you start to think to yourself, maybe I'll let it go, maybe the agent pushed me too hard. Take it to auction, doesn't sell, then talk about price if you're happy with the marketing that was done.
OK. And have we got more properties coming up on the market?
Yeah, we have here in Australia, 1.39% this week up over last week, so that's now 6 odd weeks, I think 6 or 7 weeks in the positive territory. New Zealand is in the negative in terms of its listings between Auckland and Wellington. They're two completely different markets between Auckland and the capital city, but they're negative in listings this week, which is quite odd. And I think we are following what's happening in New Zealand. We should really watch very closely because that could be happening to our marketplace here as well.
And again, there's lots of different markets. So like with New Zealand, we were speaking to someone last weekend from Wellington, and they're saying, well, the market's completely different to Auckland.
Yeah, that's right. You know, everybody hears about how busy it is, and Tom was talking about the buyers coming out of Asia. Well, Auckland's packed with that kind of buyer activity, but Wellington's not. So they are two very, very different markets, and we all know, well, Wellington's the capital. Most people think Auckland is, but the activity's in Auckland at the moment, so there's opportunity in Wellington.
So again, when you see the newspaper headlines, you've got to drill down and actually look at the fine print to see exactly what's happening in a certain area.
Very careful if you don't do that. You must be real careful about it.
So rents, what's happening with rents?
Yeah, they're moving along. Sydney's up 10.98%. Again, this has been flatlining for a while, 7.4% in Melbourne. And Perth is 18.78%. So they've all been sitting in that range for quite some time, giving us an average of 12.6. So if you can see the chart, you'll see it's flatlining all the way. And again, that's not a bad thing. I think it's good to have a marketplace like that.
Because you spent a bit of time in Perth recently, haven't you?
I spent a lot of time in Perth, and last time I told you it was because of eHarmony, but you know, nothing much has changed for me. No, nothing much has changed. eHarmony's still the favoured site for me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What about the vacancy rate?
Vacancy rates. No, don't worry about it. He's having a go at me because something I said a few weeks ago. I know exactly what he's up to. He's not going to get me too deeply today. 2.84% in Sydney, the clearance vacancy rate. Sorry, Chris. Melbourne's at 3.5 and Perth's at 4.44, giving us an average figure down in those parts of the or across the country is 3.6%.
Okay. So what else are you hearing from your agents? What's the mood in the market?
The mood in the market is that they're all pretty excited that there's still a lot of activity, but there is that ability to get out now and start to negotiate transactions. And I was talking about this for quite a few weeks now. The agents that know how to negotiate are the best ones to list your property with, not the ones with the cheapest commissions, because they're the ones you're going to need right now to help negotiate a buyer, because there's a lot more stock coming on. It's coming on at much higher prices than what it was coming on before, so there's going to be room for negotiation. So that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the agents going back to real estate. You know, we always say market two types. One where you get the buyers up to meet the seller's ridiculously high price, it's called a boom. The other where you get the seller down to meet the purchaser's ridiculously low offer, that's called real estate. And that's what we're in 90% of the time.
And I was just saying to a couple of real estate agents this week, you know, it's very much inclination to try and get a bit of stock as fast as you can, but it's actually a good market to work as hard as you can, because if you can try and work hard for your vendors or purchasers right now, this is the market to do it. You can get some good market share.
Wonderful. Charles Tarbey, Stuart Wall, good to see you guys, and thanks for joining us at home. We look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, I'm Chris Gray. Good night.